Today I'm going to replicate one of the most iconic race cars. So I've started to learn about this model and the guy who drove it, of course. His name is Richard Petty and he is the king of NASCAR. Being the most accomplished driver of this sport, Richard even got a character at Pixar's movie, and it was the King. As you know, it is the same car that Richard drove. I thought it would be great to add his car to my collection, but suddenly I've noticed something. The one and only model that I have on my collection is this 70s Roadrunner, and it doesn't have that shark nose up front and the massive spoiler at the back. So I went back and searched through the history of Richard Petty's career, and I found out that it was only in 1972 that Richard started to drive on a Dodge Charger, but it is a different car. I also went and tried to search through my collection, and although I have about 3,000 cars boxed, I didn't find anything similar to the car that I wanted to replicate. So after 2 days I've decided to let go and create this alternative universe where Richard Petty drove this Dodge Charger. And as a matter of fact, it is almost true because he wanted to drive this car, but Chrysler convinced him to drive with the Roadrunner. A few things that I'm going to take off this car, and first of them are going to be this set of wheels. I'm going to use deep dish steelies instead. Another thing that caught my eye was this interior part here. You see, this part has this motor up front. It is a very interesting find since it is the first time that I'm customizing this model, and I didn't know the existence of this piece. As I told you, I'm going to drop this car a little bit, and I have to plan my move and the way that I'm going to do it. At first I thought that maybe I can cut the base a little bit and I will make some room for the narrow axle that I'm going to use. But then I've decided that maybe I should file it a little bit. After making some room for the wheels, this is how they're supposed to look. Right now they are not spinning and they're just rubbing against the fenders. So I'm going to have to take some material from the inner fender as well. I've noticed there are no taillights at the back, so I'm doing the same on my car. I'm using this epoxy glue and I'm eliminating the taillights on my model. Now it is time to place the wheels on this base. The rear axle was a perfect match for this car. However, up front I had a problem, and I always solve this kind of problems by bending the axle at the middle. Now I'm going to wait about 3 hours until the epoxy glue will cure out completely. Now I can see that there's a little problem here. The plastic clear part rubs against the wheel, so I have to trim it as well. I'm going to remove the engine piece at the front of this blue inner part and this rear section as well. I don't need it. Now here's a little check to see if the wheels are spinning nicely, and they are smooth and nothing rubs against them. I also went back to my boxes and I found this car, which has the same interior parts as the one I've pulled out from the Daytona model. You see, it is the same piece. Now I can understand why Mattel used this part on the Daytona. That is because they wanted to be cost effective and didn't want to redesign this piece. Instead, they've used it on the Daytona as well as they did with this Dodge Charger with open hood. So right after solving this mystery, I've sprayed the entire body with a fresh coat of paint, and it is a light blue Rust-Oleum matte finish paint. Now I'm going to apply this set of decals on the car, and I'm not going to use the Plymouth logo because it is a Dodge after all. The addition of these tiny decals to my car is a nerve-wracking process. Another thing is that I always order another set in case of anything that could go wrong. I hope that I will nail this set of decals without using that one. Now that I've added these numbers, you will excuse me and I will apply the remaining set off camera because, as I told you, it is a very gentle procedure that I have to make on my own. Apparently I managed to score this big time, and I've also added glossy clear coat. And now let me show you the car. Here it is. I've also painted the rims in this darker blue like the original car, and you can see that the height of the car is low as I wanted it to be, although it's a little bit too low, but I like them dropped. Now you can see that the wheels has this darker tint of blue, and I've tried to make the same with this car. If you have a good eye, you can also notice that I've detailed the exhausts on each side, and I've also made a tiny hole at the middle of it. Now I want to show you a comparison between the two cars, the one that I've customized and the one that Mattel did. You see the difference in height. I wish that Mattel would do that in the future with this model. Here is the detailing under the car at the base, and here's the car again, and I have to admit it took me some time to get to the point where I have time to make this car. I'm a little bit disappointed that I don't have the exact model, but again, since it is looking almost similar, I'm very pleased about it. Since this car was made as a tribute to Richard Petty and his racing heritage, I'm going to create a special display box for this one. This one is going to be a temporary box until I will get a decent one, and I'll create another version of it, maybe with some graphics from racing scenery of some sort. In the meantime, it will be here on my shelf. Thanks for watching. I will see you soon on my next project. Take care and bye bye.